You are now listening to the Earn Your Stripes podcast, presented by Elite Sports Radio.
Get a grip. You don't complain because you're taking home a $17 million paycheck every year. I don't care if you're up 20 runs, 20 or 1 run. I don't care.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Earn Your Stripes podcast on Elite Sports Radio. On this Friday morning, August 11th, talking New York Yankees baseball. Emmanuel, Berbari, Christian, Kouroupakis. Christian, how's everything going?
What's going on, Emmanuel? Pretty well on this side. Just counting down the hours, I guess, until it's what the Yankees are calling it, rivalry week between the Red Sox, Mets, Red Sox again.
They are calling it rivalry week. Interestingly enough, Red Sox for 3, Mets for 4, home and home, and then Red Sox for 3 on the road. It's going to be a little tough on us Yankee fans to make it through this week in one piece.
It is. American League East race heating up. You got crosstown quote-unquote rivalry and then another AL East clash. It's going to be an entertaining 10 days of baseball, to say the least.
It is. And, you know, the Mets series, that's not a rivalry in the slightest bit. It's not a rivalry whatsoever. It's those little nudgy text messages that you get from your Mets friends whenever the Mets win a game over the Yankees that just get a little bit annoying over time. But it's not a rivalry. The Yankees and the Red Sox, we've discussed it before on this podcast. That rivalry has disintegrated over the years, but hopefully it's revitalized over the next couple of years as the Yankees and Red Sox both make runs at the AL East and likely what should be a pretty interesting fight for years to come.
Yeah, and I'm hoping this year's kind of the start of it. You got all the young talent finally coming into contention. This is finally the first time these young kids are in a pennant race together. And let's go back to the Mets a little bit. I think this little added vibe, and we're going to get into this today, this little added vibe is kind of going to start some, maybe not on the field, but maybe in the front office. We'll see some brawls up there between the Yankees and Mets this week. What do you think?
You know what? They should do a cam during the Yankees-Mets Subway Series. They should do an extra camera angle upstairs in the suites with Brian Cashman and Sandy Alderson. Maybe put them in a ring and then see what happens. Now, that would be entertaining television, but the reason we are saying this is in lieu of what went down the last few days between Yankees and Mets. You could call them executives. You could call them just front office people that are speaking to reporters. But the background on it is Jay Bruce was traded to the Cleveland Indians. He cleared waivers, and the Mets traded him for I'm not going to take a shot at Ryder Ryan, but they basically traded him for a bag of balls. That's what they did. And the only thing the Indians had to offer that the Yankees, who were also in negotiations, did not, is the fact that they paid $3.7 million, the entirety of Jay Bruce's remaining contract, through the end of the season and relieved the Mets of that cost. According to reports, the Yankees offered 2 prospects, but only $1 million of the salary. No one is on the Mets side here. Not Mets fans, not Yankee fans. Everyone hates the Wilpons right now. They are bashing Sandy Alderson for being cheap. In fact, they're calling the Wilpons the coupons, and rightfully so. Christian, I want to get your first thoughts on this because this is really an absurd sequence of events from the Mets front office.
Yeah, and it's also the Yankees front office. It's kind of like a back and forth jabbing, which is kind of entertaining. I'm waiting for the ESPN 30 for 30. Yankees, Mets, you stole my toys. 'Cause that's what it's like. It's like a high school drama. It almost feels like bickering between brothers that seemingly won't end. But yeah, it starts off. The sources remind me of just two sides talking through a friend, bickering about the other side, but they're not coming together to talk about it. That's what it reminds me of. That's why I said high school drama, but it doesn't make sense for the Mets side at first. Like, Yankees offer 2 prospects who you will probably recognize other than Ryder Ryan or whatever his name is. Bag of seeds, you said bag of balls. The Yankees offered two prospects that you probably would recognize and agreed to take on some, not all, but at least some of Bruce's remaining salary. Why wasn't the trigger pulled on that? Just on face value. Why wasn't that the case? Why wasn't Mets just go for that one?
From an organizational standpoint, it just makes no sense for the New York Mets why they did this. That resulted in all the hissy back and forth between the two sides on why the Mets didn't, and the Mets trying to justify themselves. But the Mets right now are a team that is retooling, not rebuilding. They're looking to contend in 2018. If the A.J. Ramos deal was no indication, I don't know what you think, but they are trying to contend in 2018. Instead, through this deal, they are just showing blatantly that they are worried about finances over value. If you can get two mid-level to decently good prospects from the New York Yankees in exchange for Jay Bruce, an expiring contract, you do it even if you have to pay $3 million of the almost $4 million remaining on his contract. And even if the Yankees started and said, we're only paying $1 million, why don't you go back to them and say, okay, look, we need you to pay this. You can negotiate to an extent. It looks like the Mets were almost not even willing to negotiate and just jumped on the Cleveland Indians' offer when they said, okay, we'll pick up the rest of the money. It really doesn't make much sense to me from an organizational standpoint. We'll get into the nonsense and the back and forth comments in a little bit. But from an organizational standpoint with the Mets, it made no sense not to pull the trigger on this deal with the Yankees.
And it also makes no sense that because this is an expiring contract. It's not like this is a 4-year deal they're trying to get rid of and they really desperately need the money to be eaten. This is a 1-year expiring contract. It's not like it's 10, 15, 20 million. It's $4 million. Coupon is right. And I don't want to get into whether Bruce would fit the Yankees because I think he will with that left bat. It doesn't even matter at this point. It matters that the Mets just made a terrible decision when they could have injected their farm system with a little bit of promising youth. Again, we'll get into the back and forth about exactly who these prospects are. We don't really know that. But at least it's something other than a bag of seeds. But let's just go into the reports now. The sources saying one thing and the Mets sources saying the other. Sherman's report, which said that exactly the Yankees offered multiple prospects and to take on some of Bruce's money. That kind of sounded like a member of the Yankee brass that's kind of frustrated that a deal didn't get done because, again, the Yankees are struggling for production from the DH spot, right field, not first base because Headley's doing a tremendous job over there. But it sounded like they're frustrated that deal didn't get done and wanted to make the little brother look bad. And now it kind of created the narrative that the Mets opted to take less from another American League contender instead of the Yankees because Bruce might help that crosstown rival, again, quote, rival, gain an edge in their quest for a divisional crown. And that's what it's pettiness. That's what it seemed from Sherman's source.
And I think when everybody just started saying, wow, this is getting intense, this is savagery at its finest, is when the one front office name, another Mets official said, when we were looking for players last year, the Yankees weren't exactly rushing to return our calls. Quote unquote, those are direct words from that Mets official. And that shows that not only are the Mets just worried about finances when they're trying to retool for 2018 instead of value, they are taking feelings into the equation from last year. It's like they have a broken heart from a relationship from last year. Oh, they didn't satisfy our needs, so let's hit them back even harder this year when they have a need. Are you kidding me? I mean, if this was a Med Rosario we were talking about and the Mets were trying to trade him for some real value this year and just a short-term solution for a Med Rosario, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because you are potentially helping the Yankees for 10 to 15 years. We're talking about Jay Bruce, who helps the Yankees in the middle of their lineup for half, not even half, of 2017. It's beyond absurd. They're taking feelings into the equation on this.
Yeah, so basically that report told me that the Mets are happy churning down better ways to ship expiring contracts because they're basically holding a grudge based on Cashman's fire sale from last year. One question for you, Emmanuel. Who are the Mets trading for last year? Carlos Beltran?
Beltran? They weren't in on Chapman or Miller. Who are they
and
in
even
on?
If they were on both of them, they would have to ship Rosario, Dominic Smith, etc., etc. But that the pettiness is just baffling.
And they weren't trading Rosario. They weren't
No.
trading Smith. So who were they in on? A 38-year-old right fielder? No, they weren't.
No.
So what is this guy actually talking about? Is he out of his mind saying that the Yankees didn't entertain them last year when they had needs? And Beltran didn't even fit their needs. So I don't want to hear about this. The Mets just made a horrible decision here organizationally. I'll even go as far as saying financially, because if they had taken that $2 million and swallowed their pride, they would be in a much better position right now with their organization, and they'd probably be playing with a lot more house money next year. So it really makes no sense to me, and I don't know. Maybe they should get Cashman and Alderson in the ring next week, because that'll be the only entertaining baseball that's being played.
But wait, just when you think things couldn't get any better, they do. So after those statements of what seemed like just sour teasing became public, reports now came out that the Yankees and Mets discussed a deal for Neil Walker prior to the July 31st deadline, and those talks fell through. And the reasons given, this is why this is so entertaining to me. The reasons why both teams differ by a country mile. The Yankees claim they backed out over medical concerns. Then the Post says that the Mets believed Cashman used medicals as an excuse, as a back-out tactic. That's a direct quote. After they completed the trade for Sonny Gray. What? Explain. What does all of this bickering achieve?
I don't understand what it achieves. I don't understand the point of it. If the deal gets done, it gets done. If it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. That's really what it comes down to. If there were medical concerns, Cashman has every single right to cite that as the reason it didn't get done, even if there were 10 other reasons. But clearly there's an inferiority complex here, and the Mets and Yankees just have this little hinge where they can't get a deal done when they're close to getting one done because they don't want to help each other out. It's really foolish. It makes no sense to me why they can't help each other out. And the Mets are a team that's clearly out of the race this year, and the Yankees are a team that are. So if you can swallow your pride for 1 year, trade a guy like Neil Walker, who probably won't make the hugest difference anyway, improve your future, and then turn the page to next year, I don't understand what it's hurting you in. It doesn't hurt you whatsoever. If the deal gets done, it gets done. If it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. Why go back and forth about why it didn't get done and about Brian Cashman's wording?
Yeah, not even that. I would understand. I don't know. I don't understand the fact that the Mets are churning back and saying, this was not because of medicals, this was because of this. When Neil Walker has been riddled by injuries this season and even last year, there's an obvious concern with his medicals. It's not even close. There's an obvious concern. And the Yankees, who are dealing with Starlin Cashman on the disabled list, don't want to go down another road, bringing on someone who can't stay off the disabled list in the middle of a pennant race. So obviously there's obvious concerns. Yet, no, it's because you wanted to back out of the Sonny Gray deal.
And even if the medical concerns were an excuse, you could find something in Neil Walker's latest MRI that would help the deal fall through. This guy has not been healthy in the longest time for the New York Mets. Yes, he's back on the field now, but I'm sure you could find something to make a deal fall through. This guy has not been the slightest bit healthy all year, and he has a history of injuries. I don't even know why the Yankees were reported to be in on Neil Walker. Starlin Castro's about to start a rehab assignment. Ronald Torreyes has been more than fine at second base. Unless Neil Walker is going to learn a new position, I don't understand why that deal was about to go through.
Oh, no, I like the deal for Neil Walker because, again, Starlin Castro came back and then hit the shelf right after. And that kind of, and going after a guy like this kind of tells me that the Yankees may be a little more concerned about his Starlin Castro's overall health, even going into his rehab stint. Maybe they think it's going to take a little longer. I know that the Yankees say that he's further along, or I'm sorry, his timetable is a little longer than Greg Bird's. So that's a pretty long time. Maybe the Yankees are a little more concerned. Neil Walker, 1 year fix, shouldn't cost much. So I kind of like going after him, and I trust Neil Walker more than I trust Ronald Torreyes, as much as I love the little guy. But that's not even the point. The point is, it won't be long till MTV drops its latest reality hit show based on these events, and it's just nothing more than two teams in the biggest baseball media market bickering over a couple $1 million, and again, like you said, just an overall grudge for no reason.
Definitely. And back to that point, Christian, if Starlin Castro really is that far away from getting back, Yankee fans better be a little bit more concerned. My impression was that he was on his way back, and that would make no sense to bring in an everyday second baseman if Starlin Castro is on his way back. But if this guy's going to be back until, it's looking like September or mid-September until this guy's back every day. So the Yankee fans better be a little bit concerned about that.
Especially with the offense the way it's going right now. But if you're Girardi, you're praying that Greg Bird gets back 100%, Starlin Castro returns to his all-star form. If that could all click as soon as possible, this offense would get itself out of the hole it's in, because it's been ugly to watch this team. It's not even with runners in scoring position anymore. It's just overall watching this team. It's kind of been tiring.
Well, beyond this whole Yankees-Mets fiasco, you mentioned the Yankees' struggles offensively. We're going to preview this weekend's Yankees-Red Sox series a little bit, and that shouldn't go without talking about this recent series in Toronto. In Game 1, the offense is lifeless. In Game 2, they get a couple of long balls and put up 8 runs, actually 11 runs as a result. And in Game 3, they get absolutely shut out. Runners in scoring position stranded time and time again, yet again, and they lose 2 out of 3 in Toronto. Christian, it's just getting to a point. The Yankees, whenever they get runners on first and second, nobody out, they're destined not to score. And then when they don't get runners on first and second and nobody out, they're just going quietly into the night. There's no pop. There's no it factor to this offense anymore. And it is becoming painful to watch. Day in, day out, you can't rely on this team to get the job done. And the offense has just been too insufficient, where some of these games have been a lost cause after the 4th inning.
Yeah, again, I like how you said that it factor, because that it factor in the beginning of the season was Mr. Aaron Judge. And now he's fallen back. It's fallen back to seemingly his 2016 form. In fact, when you looked at yesterday, the stats heading into that game, it was almost identical. The stats from his stint in 2016 and his stretch since the All-Star break. It's scary. And again, you're missing that it factor, and that was Aaron Judge. And now Yankees have kind of seemingly fallen into a Groundhog Day kind of slump, where every day it's just leaving runners in scoring position. Sluggish offense, nothing really, no pop, nothing that scares or overwhelms the opposition. And when you're not giving your guys run support, that makes your bullpen a non-factor, which again we saw last year with both Miller, Chapman in there. It was a non-factor because the offense was so sluggish, and that's what you're seeing now in the middle of a pennant race. Coining Joe Girardi, it's not what you want, and it's going to lead to possibly the Yankees falling out of maybe even the wild card race unless they can get this thing together. I know I shouldn't maybe not go that drastic, but we might be seeing that.
It's not too drastic, Christian. If Aaron Judge doesn't pick it up, if this offense doesn't start hitting with runners in scoring position, there is not a chance in hell the Yankees are making the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. The difference between now and the beginning of the season is first and second, nobody out in the beginning of the season. When Judge came up, it was, oh crap, let's hope he doesn't hit one 500 feet. Then after him, Matt Holliday was as productive a hitter with runners in scoring position as you could find in baseball. After him, it was Starlin Castro, who seemingly cashed in with an RBI single at every single chance possible. After him, it was Didi Gregorius, who is now the Yankees' best hitter in their lineup. That's a huge difference. You're about 4 or 5 hitters deep right there in the middle of the order. Now you're 1 hitter deep, and that's Didi Gregorius. And God help us, the Yankees are relying on the contributions of Garrett Cooper to stay afloat in these games. Who would have thought? So, I'm not sure what's going on right now with Aaron Judge, but it needs to improve. And you got to wonder, is this the Aaron Judge we should become accustomed to? Or is this just a matter of things leveling out, or he's somewhere in between? Because I really can't tell the difference right now.
I firmly believe it's somewhere in between. I think if you look at right now, there's no way he's this bad. We've seen how good he is. He was never this awful in the minor leagues. And you look at the first half, he was never that good in the minor leagues. He was having an astronomical season. Batting average on balls in play was almost close to 450, completely unsustainable. You saw a fall off coming. I don't think we expected it to be this bad or this fall to be this hard down to earth, but it's somewhere in between, and he better level out. He better level out soon, or else his team is in trouble.
And you know, watching Aaron Judge the whole first half, we were just wondering, is this sustainable? Can this happen for the entire season? Can this guy win the Triple Crown maybe? Although we knew it wasn't realistic, we were hoping that the slump would come, it would last about 2 weeks, and then he'd be back to his raking ways. This has been torturous. If there was going to be a slump for Aaron Judge this season, you were hoping there would maybe be 2 of them in increments. This has been a torturous slump for the fans, for Aaron Judge, for the Yankees team. It's just come at an inopportune time, and it's been so prolonged that it's really hurt the Yankees altogether as an offense.
Yeah, and it's coming out to make it the timing even worse. It's coming where you now have Sonny Gray in your rotation, and he's got no run support. I think if you look at it, I don't think he's got a single run of run support.
No,
I could be wrong there, but I don't think he's got a single run. He kept the Yankees. He didn't have his sharp stuff last night, but he kept the Yankees in the game, and they did nothing to help him out. Again, in a pennant race, not what you want, and you can't even afford that.
And you can't blame Sonny Gray in either of these starts. He was really sharp against Cleveland. The Yankees didn't score a run until Gary Sanchez's home run, which came after Sonny Gray was out of the game. The Yankees didn't score a run at all yesterday, and Gray, again, with not his great stuff, kept the Yankees in the game. You take that from Sonny Gray anytime he went out on the mound. The Yankees need to score more than this. You're not going to win a game when you score 0 runs, and that's what they did yesterday in Toronto, and you're not going to win series when you're not scoring a high level of runs either. And they're going to need to score runs this weekend against a high-powered Boston Red Sox offense, which has happened to find a groove lately. So that's what's going to have to happen.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. It's just there's nothing to debate about this. You're wondering when Holiday's going to return. You're wondering when that staple DH is going to come back. The lineup was whole in the first half, and now, like you said, it's one person with all the weight on his shoulders. That just can't happen with a playoff team and a team that now has an all-in vibe to it. It's going to come down crashing hard. Like we said, there's no way the Yankees will sniff the playoffs if this continues.
Let's take a look at this series, Christian, real quick. Your take on it, is this make or break for the Yankees?
Make or break might be too harsh, especially since...
In the division?
Well, next week they face off against the Red Sox again. So if they lose 2 out of 3 and take 2 out of 3 next week, you're fine.
If you get swept,
if you get
you're
swept,
7.5 out.
If you get swept and then sweep them next week, you're fine. So I don't think this one's make or break. Next week perhaps is make or break. This is a huge series.
These 6 games.
These 6 games are make or break. This series, no. I consider next series to be more make or break, but the 6 games, absolutely. Next week I feel like is obviously more important than this week, but you got to take the series. This is not a series you can afford to lose. This is not a series that you should lose. You should go out at home, Yankee Stadium. Apparently the crowd's going to be sick because the tickets are over $150 for bleachers.
They are.
But this is a series you need to take. I don't think it's going to break them, but it's a series you have to have.
Well, tonight's game is going to be a little bit more important than anyone would think. Jaime Garcia against, I believe it is Eddie Rodriguez? Yes, it is. They're going up head-to-head, and tomorrow's game has a lot of emphasis on it with Luis Severino on the mound. You expect to win that game. Tonight, you better win if you want to win this series, because Sunday you have Chris Sale going up against Jordan Montgomery. Mm-hmm. So the Yankees got to view these first 2 games. You got to take them if you want to take the series.
Yes, the first 2 games especially. I'm with you there. It's an obstacle to climb with Chris Sale looming on a Sunday game. Just quick question. I know this is kind of tailing off from the Red Sox angle, but thoughts on Montgomery coming back?
I thought it was the right move. CC goes down. There are questions about his health now. That knee, of course, feeling like it did back in 2015. That's not a great sign for Sabathia as far as his entire career or rest of his career is concerned. If you're going to sideline Sabathia, Jordan Montgomery is your best option in that rotation. So whether he's on an innings limit or not, you got to go with your best option here. And Montgomery is that. And he was scheduled to start this weekend anyway, I believe. I don't think he's missing a beat as far as the overall plan was concerned. I don't think you go with a makeshift solution here in Brian Mitchell. You go with what you know, put Montgomery in his place, and then once Sabathia is ready, if he is ready at all for the rest of the season, then you can option Montgomery again and go back to that innings limit plan.
Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world. I'd rather trust Montgomery out there than Caleb Smith, which
Yes.
was
100%.
or Luis Cessa. I do think Brian Mitchell has earned an extra shot at a rotation bid. Again, it's a pennant race, though, so you don't want to really throw him into that. He did register 7 shutout innings last year against the Red Sox in a late September game. 2-hit, 7-inning shutout ball. So I kind of want to see Brian Mitchell out there. Didn't want to kind of derail this plan for Montgomery. But, again, rather Montgomery out there than lesser options. He's someone, again, Rookie of the Year conversation we've been talking about. I can't complain.
Look, what it's going to come down to with Montgomery on Sunday is just keeping the Yankees in the game.
Yes.
That would be the same with Mitchell. You can't allow more than 2 runs in that game, and the Yankees know that full well. They've beaten Chris Sale twice. Not exactly beaten him, but beating the Red Sox in 2 games that he started and actually beat Sale in one of them. They know what it takes. You have to be within 1 or 2 runs by the 7th, 8th inning and just wait for that one opportunity to push through. So for Montgomery, it's going to be keeping the Yankees in the game. That would have been the same with Mitchell, would have been the same with Cessa, would have been the same with Caleb Smith. Just got to keep the Yankees in that game and hope for the best.
And that's kind of the Red Sox mentality going into against Luis Severino. So you got Luis Severino against the Red Sox on Saturday, Sale against the Yankees on Sunday. Those are 2 guys that the opposite teams, Red Sox, Yankees, respectively, will try to keep to 2 runs, just keep them in the ball game. So that makes tonight's matchup on Friday night much greater. This is a must-win for, I believe, both teams.
It'll be a big one tonight, Yankees and the Red Sox. Well, we covered a lot, Christian.
Yes, we did.
Went on a few tangents as well. Started off with the Yankees-Mets nonsense and fiasco, potentially a hit MTV series coming your way soon. Moved on to the current state of the Yankees, their inability to score runs, hit with runners in scoring position. Finished off with this upcoming Red Sox series, and of course these next 6 games between this weekend and next weekend could very well make or break the Yankees, or the Red Sox for that matter, divisional chances. Christian, any final thoughts? It should be a good weekend.
No, and you have fun because you're going tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll be part of the Bleacher Creatures out in right center field, and it should be a good time. For this week's edition of the Earn Your Stripes podcast, for this Yankees-Mets fiasco, and for Christian Kouroupakis, I'm Emmanuel Berbari. Have a great rest of your weekend.